So yesterday, I won't say brought an end to, but certainly will be an important milestone in the quest for whatever meaning for that very tragic August 6 helicopter crash. The incident we know occurred in the Dambia Forest Reserve in Adansia Krofum, claimed the lives of 8 persons, including 2 ministers of state. The committee that was set up was chaired by Captain Paul Fojo, and he took the time yesterday to speak to the press to give highlights of their findings. So here are some excerpts of that.
In the southeast Ghana was poor on the day, which delayed departure for about an hour. In Accra, conditions were misty, with visibility of about 5 to 7 kilometers and very low clouds starting at only 700 to 1100 feet above the ground. While the situation improved slightly later in the morning, the early hours were dominated by haze and overcast skies. In Kumasi, the weather was worse, with drizzle reducing visibility to around 4 kilometers and heavy low clouds sitting just 600 to 900 feet above the ground. Only Accra and Kumasi aerodrome were available. Only Accra and Kumasi aerodrome weather were available. There was no formal information on the weather available to the pilots along the flight route. Witnesses reported poor visibility due to fog and rain at Brofuyedru and its environs. Conditions. Environmental commissions in the Dampier Forest Reserve and its rugged terrain of hills, mountains create conditions such that over rugged terrain you can have turbulence, downdraft, and other phenomena. Now to look at this is what we're talking around ridgelines, mountains, and hills, and can generate sink rates in excess of 1,000 feet a minute in moderate wind conditions. These sink conditions can often exist well above the barrier that induces the eddies. We assessed the aircraft to see if it was fit for purpose. The helicopter entered the Ghana Air Force Service in May 2015, having been manufactured in 2012, and it reached its 10-year service threshold on 18th May 2025. Aircrafts have periodic checks to make sure that they're fit for service. The Air Force has 25-hour checks, 50-hour checks, and 100-hour checks. The 10-year check for the helicopter is what was mandated for this helicopter. Now, as is usual, an operator, in this case Ghana Air Force, requested from the manufacturer an extension. And it's normal, happens in civil flying, happens with flying. The manufacturer gave a 90-day extension to 18th August 2025. And basically, the helicopter met all the basic safety requirements. That notwithstanding, it's sort of clashed, it's sort of a 100-hour check. So the Air Force also did a 100-hour check on the helicopter before the flight. The aircraft on the day was declared serviceable and duly signed off by both the engineers. The flight data report indicates that the helicopter was in good working condition. The helicopter, however, did not have some avionic safety enhancements. As I said before, the aircraft was serviceable and airworthy. Additional safety equipment that the helicopter did not have were things like the helicopter terrain awareness system, or the enhanced ground proximity warning system, as you may choose, advanced navigation with terrain mapping, an automatic flight control system. And I would say that these safety equipment would have enhanced situational awareness. For instance, it didn't have an autopilot. That's advanced, the automatic flight control system, so that the crew had to manually fly the plane. So it sort of increases workload. Typically, you want to have a plane that has an autopilot. All the civil planes use autopilots, and the workload on the pilots is very low. It gives you the chance to do things and to think easily, and so on and so forth. Despite all this, the aircraft was in a good condition to fly and met all safety requirements. The investigation has recommended strongly for aircraft with these additional safety enhancements to be acquired immediately for the Air Force. It helps to say here that in Ghana Air Force, there are flying limitations for the crew. You have 10 hours per week maximum, 62 hours maximum per month. Before flight, it's also accepted that at a rest of 8 hours, you've had enough rest and you can go to work. They had in excess of 24 hours rest.
All right, so those were highlights of Captain Paul Fojo's report. We have a summary of the causes of the August 6 military helicopter crash. I'm going to read them. So the first major issue is adverse weather conditions, and according to the report, poor visibility, fog, drizzle, and low clouds over southern and middle Ghana, particularly around Kumasi and Brofuyedru, created unsafe flight conditions. Now, second point was lack of weather information. It says there was no formal weather update or flight route information provided to the pilot before departure. This is very significant. Right, let me repeat that. There was no formal weather update or flight route information provided to the pilot before departure. So can we say if you had that information, we have used a different route? We don't know. But this is what the report says. 3, downdraft and environmental factors. The crash was caused by a sudden loss of altitude and lift due to a downdraft consistent with changing environmental conditions over high rugged terrain. So again, the type of weather and that type of terrain creates conditions which can lead to danger. But I still highlight the point number 2. No formal weather update or flight route information provided to the pilot before departure. That's point number 2. Point number 4, limited navigational aids. So that has to do with no ground-based navigational aid or real-time tracking system like radar, ADS-B, or flight monitoring along the route, or route, as the Americans say. So I highlight that as well. Limited navigational aids. And then there were also aircraft limitations. Though the helicopter was airworthy, and I think the man said it met the basic safety requirements, emphasis on basic, and had passed its 100-hour check, it lacked critical avionics safety systems, such as TORS, Terrain Awareness and Warning System, EGPWS, Enhanced Ground Proximity Warning Systems, Advanced Navigation with Cross-Terrain Mapping, and Automatic Flight Control System, or Autopilot. All right. So I'm not an expert, but this is just on basic reading. So part was caused by the weather, but part was because we didn't give a formal weather update or flight information before the pilot left. Of course, point number 3, the weather led to adverse conditions around the terrain which pulled the aircraft down, the so-called downdraft. But then we also admit that we had limited navigational aids, which means that if it was a more sophisticated aircraft, it may have been able to navigate its way through the difficult terrain. And then the aircraft itself was limited. We didn't have the terrain awareness and warning system. So meaning a different type of aircraft may have been able to give the pilot some more information that may have determined what he did. We don't know. Enhanced ground proximity warning. It sounds like the closer you are to the ground, it may let you know your altitude or altimeter. I don't know whether that's what they are saying. They also said they didn't have advanced navigation with terrain mapping and then automatic flight control system. Now, even though this is a technical subject, I think that because they were communicating to the public, upon basic reading, a person of average intelligence should understand it. So whilst I'm not trying to do a technical work, I'm not sure the level of presentation they did to the national security is the same level they did to with the public. All right. Obviously, if you are speaking to the National Security Council, there are technical people there. You can speak to them in higher language. But this is the information they give with the public. So we can take it upon face value. All right. Okay, let me read the recommendations and then put them together. Now, recommendation 1, modernize the Ghana Air Force fleet with aircraft equipped with terrain awareness and modern navigation systems. Clearly, you are admitting that the aircraft was not modern. Based on this navigation, recommendation 2, install cockpit voice and flight data recorders on all aircraft. Maybe they need to explain why they put this there. Are they saying that they didn't have that? Install cockpit voice and flight data recorders, including audiovisual capable types. So they put that in brackets. So are they saying that maybe there was a voice and flight recorder, but they didn't have this particular type? Because the recommendation says install cockpit and voice flight data recorders into bracket audiovisual capable type on all aircraft. So that's something an asterisk. 3, invest in simulator training for pilots to improve preparedness for adverse weather and terrain conditions. Remember, on the point of view, I brought a flight simulator and I brought a crash pilot investigator, and then I brought Festus Abuaji to discuss this. And the simulator was able to simulate the weather, and they discussed what could have happened. And it's very clear that if the aircraft had been more sophisticated and advanced, the pilot may have had a better chance. I think we can surmise this. All right. Contract certified aviation weather providers for accurate real-time route forecasts. I don't know the reason why point number 2 around lack of weather information is there. If you say there was no formal weather updates or flight route information, was it because somebody didn't do his job, or it has never been there? That has to be explained. All right. So now they are saying contract a certified aviation weather providers for accurate real-time route forecast. So can we conclude that they didn't have that? Meanwhile, we are flying people to go and solve our national problems. 5, develop national en route navigational aids, especially in remote areas. Again, it speaks for itself. 6, establish flight data monitoring and tracking systems for real-time aircraft surveillance. And then 7, acquire and modernize ground support equipment to improve operational safety. So, Francisca, I'm saying upon a simple reading of this, I'm not trying to blame anybody, but I can say collectively we could have done better.
Yeah.
Clearly from what is written here, right?
Yeah, what I find curious is the grounding of the recommendations. I wish that additional facts could have been provided to give the basis
for this recommendation,
the specific recommendations enumerated in that report, because then it's not clear what the problem really is or what the problems are. Because if you're talking about audio, visual, whatever, the question you asked is, so what exists currently in our aircrafts? So that's the thing.
You can deduce.
But I don't think we should be deduced, and I think that there should have been the facts should have been the basis for this.
So the way it is presented. To be fair, I'm reading a summary of the recommendations on our news card. Again, you need to read it with the report. If you read it with the report,
yeah,
it flows.
Okay.
Which is why when I read the courses, you can tell that they didn't have it.
Yeah.
All right. So I feel like the report is trying not to put the blame on a particular person or one particular factor. But if you read the recommendations, you can tell clearly that the absence of those things is why they are recommending it.
So, for instance, for me, the recommendation that gives the idea or the impression that there could have been negligence on the part of certain officers or certain people who worked officialdom, it could have gone further, so that what was who supposed to do and why didn't they do it and what happens to them. Do you get it? If information was supposed to be given to the pilot, whose job was that? Why wasn't that done?
So I feel like they've written it in a way to say this is the state of things that led to this. They have been careful not to say This is what somebody should have done. So if you read the tone of the report is basically saying the aircraft we had didn't have this type of thing. Our flight navigation system has this limitation. They didn't say somebody hasn't done this, because they are very careful not to blame a person, but to sort of put the blame on the system.
But it's people's job to enforce the standards.
So 100%. So I'm with you there. But you see, I feel like they are being very careful, because if you have a systemic failure that results in people's death, it will be unfair to then point to specific individuals, because when something is a systemic failure, it means that the interplay of many things that haven't been done has led to this. So for example, had we bought new helicopters, which we had upgraded with all the things that we said they were to, they may have had a better chance. Had we had a navigation, so whatever, do you get it? So it's more like to say, we are admitting that the system is not up to scratch. So let's improve the system. That's what the report is saying. The report is not saying Kofi Mensah didn't put on the light, or Kobna Menu didn't do his audio checks, or the people were too tired. You guys, so they are saying the people were not tired. The guy was a competent pilot. The plane met the basic safety requirements. But when you meet certain conditions, your basic safety requirements cannot stand those conditions. So it means that next time you are going to buy a helicopter, buy one that has advanced whatever. Meanwhile, there are some other basic things you need to do. Like point number 2, you need a formal weather update and flight route information to the pilot. Yeah. You need to do this. You need to have ground-based navigational aids and real-time tracking. All right. I hope that these recommendations will even have an impact on the budget. You are reading a budget tomorrow. We've just lost 8 people. We've done politics with aircraft. Some people say this was the helicopter that may have flown our president. We are just saying, look, if you don't have enough helicopters, buy proper helicopters. Make sure they are up to standard. We don't want to lose people over this type of thing. All right. They know exactly what they could have bought that they didn't buy. So whether it's a helicopter or a plane or whatever, you get it? Because if a defense minister and an environment minister are sitting in a helicopter, which doesn't have, look at this, aircraft limitations. It was airworthy and had passed the so-called 100-hour check. It lacked critical avionic safety systems. They use the word critical. If there's something is critical, what does it mean?
It's of utmost importance.
It lacked critical avionic safety systems, such as terrain awareness warning system. In basic English, what does that mean? Enhanced ground proximity warnings. Clearly, so I really want to say, we shouldn't let these people die in vain. Let's do the needful. Get better equipment. Do better simulation. They recommended simulations. Sky was saying something off air that in Ghana, we don't take a lot of things seriously. We do the sign of the cross and we sit in a jalopy and hope we get there safely. No, we shouldn't do that. We should let this death show us that we must be thorough. Leave no stone unturned to give everybody who flies any aircraft the best chance of surviving any emergency. Emergencies will happen. Your system is only as strong as what it can cope with. So clearly, whether the aircraft, the navigation system, or whatever we had, it was not enough to deal with this type of weather. Never again should it happen in our time. Never again. All right, now the report of the committee is arranged in a very interesting way. So it's the Z9EHGHF 631 helicopter accident investigation, Ministry of Defense accident report, October 2025. It gives an introduction. It gives the methodology of the investigation. Composition of the board includes the National Security, Ghana Armed Forces, U.S. Air Force Staff, and Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation and Prevention Bureau. And then it gives the methodology of a factual information, evidence collection, technical examination and data collection, and human factor and operational information. Now, very important, the scope was 7-fold. 1, history of the flight. 2, weather. 3, machine. 4, sequence of events. 5, cause of accident. 6, organizational and systemic factors. 7, human factors or man. It gives an overview of previous flights. 2nd August 2025, Takoradi to Accra, 1 o'clock. 3rd August, Accra, Cape Coast, Accra, 1:20. Purpose was medivac, medical evacuation. 4th August, Accra, Salman, Accra, 2:30 cargo. And then on Wednesday, August 6th, so it had flown 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and then flew on the 6th. The crew for Z9EHGHF planned to execute the task order for Ministry of Defense. The flight was scheduled to depart at 8 a.m. with an estimated en route time of 50 minutes. The captain delayed takeoff due to adverse weather in Kumasi, Accra, and Obuasi. So instead of 8 a.m., takeoff was 9:12 a.m. 14 seconds, so 1 hour 12-minute delay. Throughout the flight, the altitude fluctuated and changed to avoid low clouds. Weather. So they show a picture of weather in the morning and in the afternoon, and they also have a picture of the en route weather from a passenger on board the helicopter to a friend before the accident. It says the weather in southern Ghana was poor, which delayed departure for about an hour. In Accra, conditions were misty, with visibility of about 5 to 7 kilometers, and very low clouds starting at only 700 to 1,100 feet above the ground. So the clouds were very low. While the situation improved slightly later in the morning, the early hours were dominated by haze and overcast skies. Weather. In Kumasi, the weather was worse, with drizzle reducing visibility to around 4 kilometers and heavy low clouds sitting just 600 to 700 feet above the ground. Critical point there. Only Accra and Kumasi aerodrome weather were available. Still on weather. There was no information on the weather along the flight route available to the pilot. Let me repeat this. There was no information on the weather along the flight route available to the pilot. Witnesses reported poor visibility due to fog and rain at Brofu and its environs. The kind of rapid changes in environmental conditions over the terrain can result in turbulence, downdrafts, and other phenomena. Still on weather, now they describe downdrafts. Turbulent wind currents usually occurring around ridge lines, mountains, and hills, generating sink rates in excess of 1,000 feet per minute in moderate wind conditions. This is from Heliops 2023. There's a visual picture of this. So it's a form of turbulence which occurs on mountainous regions. So that's weather. Let's come to machine. We assessed the aircraft to see if it was fit for purpose. The helicopter entered GHAF or Ghana Air Force Service May 2015. That's 10 years ago. Manufactured 2012 and reached its 10-year service threshold 18th May 2025. The aircraft received a 90-day extension to 18 August 2025. And mind you, it crashed on 6th August, which means 12 days to its 90-day expiry. Let me repeat that again. The aircraft received a 90-day extension to 18 August 2025 with the manufacturer's approval. Still on the machine. The aircraft on the day of the flight was declared serviceable and duly signed off by the captain. The FDR report indicates that the helicopter was in good working condition. The helicopter, however, lacked some avionic safety enhancements. Look for the word avionic. What does it mean? Okay, avionic. Now, they are elaborating on the serviceable and airworthy. The machine was serviceable and airworthy, but lacked key safety equipment. And the word key is not my word, it's their word. Key safety equipment. And they give 4. Terrain awareness and warning system, into bracket HTAWS. So helicopter terrain awareness warning system. Stroke EGPWS. Not there. Advanced navigation with terrain mapping. They didn't have it. Also lacked automatic flight control system. I don't know what that means, but those who know it know what it is.
Automatic flight control system or autopilot stabilizes pitch, roll, and yaw.
Good. What is advanced navigation with terrain mapping?
So let me just finish this one. And can execute an automatic climb or level of command. In a sudden downdraft, which we're told, turbulent air pulling you downwards. Such automation can instantly convert maximum available power into climb performance, while the pilot maintains situational awareness.
So basically, if something is pulling the aircraft that the pilot didn't know, if
Yeah.
it had an automatic flight control system, based on what you've read, it would have moved the aircraft up
Exactly.
away from danger.
Uh-huh.
Good.
And then you asked about something else.
Advanced. So it lacked three things: terrain awareness and warning system. I think that's basic English. The one I wanted to find was advanced navigation with terrain mapping.
Okay.
So
I'll
look
get
for
you
it.
that. Yeah.
While he's looking for that, avionics, according to Google, means electronics as applied to aviation.
So the aircraft.
Electronic equipment
Lacked-
fitted in an aircraft.
So some avionic safety enhancements.
The avionics systems include everything you are mentioning.
Correct.
Yeah.
Everything, the terrain mapping, flight management, GPS positioning, weather radar and terrain mapping, instrument landing systems, all those things are part of the avionics systems.
So it's basically like you are driving a certain car where it is aware of its environment with cameras and whether if you are changing lanes, somebody's coming. Versus driving a basic taxi
Yep.
which doesn't have that. So you have to use your eyes to see left, right, and that type of thing. So basically, enhancements that could have made it easier for the aircraft to be more aware of its environment and also react
Exactly.
on its own, or the pilot to react to that environment was not
Exactly.
there. But it could fly people from one place to another.
Yeah.
All right, let me finish. So it lacked terrain awareness and warning system.
Can I give you that now?
No, give me the advanced navigation and terrain mapping. Yes.
Yes. So, which is the helicopter? So, modern helicopters are fitted with helicopter terrain awareness and warning systems, or enhanced ground proximity warning systems. Now, these continuously compare the aircraft's position, altitude, and speed with a digital terrain database. If the helicopter is descending downward, toward rising ground, the system issues a loud, unmistakable alert. Terrain, pull up. So you hear that.
So
you
the
know,
basic guy
uh-huh.
didn't have this one.
Giving the crew vital seconds to climb or turn away.
Oh.
Now, such systems have virtually limited controlled flight into terrain, accidents in civil and military fleets worldwide. Now, he goes on to say that had the GHF 631 been so equipped, the pilots would have received an
Oh.
automatic warning before striking the ridgeline, even in complete cloud. Equally vital is advanced GPS-based navigation with terrain mapping, which shows a live three-dimensional picture of the ground ahead. It transforms a blind flight in fog into a guided one.
Oh.
In this case, a crew would have seen on their display that they were flying into a rising terrain near Brofoyedu.
Thank you for that. So the three things have been explained, so we understand it. Now they then said under machine, we have recommended. So they haven't even got to recommendation, but they put it there quickly. We have recommended strongly for aircraft with these additional safety enhancements to be acquired immediately. They
I
choose to
think
call
they
it
jumped
additional.
some. You see,
Yeah.
I think they jumped something there for me. And when I listened to Captain Fojo,
Yeah.
that was my first reaction. The first recommendation is to stop the use of all aircrafts that lack these facilities.
Correct. That's a very important point.
That's the first thing. They should stop. Put an end to it.
Exactly.
If you want to use it for flight training at a restricted area, that's a
In
different
good
thing.
weather.
I mean, flight training, whichever. But the point is that you cannot put people in harm's way
By
in
putting
the manner that we have done.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, Bernard, that we are civilians and nobodies, quote and unquote.
not experts, yeah.
Okay. So we will just raise questions based on what we have heard from Captain Fojo.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you that a good number of the Air Force people knew that this aircraft had all these problems. I'm telling you, I don't need their confirmation.
It's true.
You knew that the aircraft was not ready to do VIP transport. And you put ministers in a thing, thinking that, ways and means, we will manage it.
We'll manage it.
Okay? We don't have flight tracking systems for such aircrafts within the Air Force.
So once he moves, it's off radar.
So watch,
At a
go
certain
back,
distance.
go. No, we don't have live track.
It was there.
Flight tracking.
I'll read it.
Check the statement. he kept saying that we got information from Kumasi,
Yeah, because we have
not en route information. No. So we knew what the situation was in Kumasi. We knew what the situation was in Obuasi.
But not on the plane.
No. The live en route tracking, zero. So if we knew all these things, why did we put the people on the aircraft? These are questions that somebody should be asking.
Exactly. And
We were not just waiting for the report so that life will go on just like that.
Exactly.
Otherwise, this thing will be repeated at some point.
And then the point you made about a recommendation that ought to be there, I think you need to emphasize that, you see, because we don't know how many of such helicopters still exist. So my point is that if you are saying, you see, because they are saying we should recommend strongly for aircraft with this additional safety enhancement be acquired. But he's saying that, what about the ones that are already there that don't have them?
Yeah.
You see, so what you need to say first is that, okay, stop using all aircraft without this. Then acquire these type of aircraft so that this doesn't happen. So I feel like you are that point has been. So sometimes when you analyze a report, it is important to see what is not there. And I think that point you made is a critical point. That if there are aircraft without that in the system, don't put anybody on it. Don't put anybody on. Let me finish. Let me read there. So when they did it.
And another thing that, not to cut you, another thing that I thought I would hear from them is to recommend the establishment of an independent aviation safety commission or board in this country.
Independent.
And this is independent of the military, independent of, proper independent. Because for all we know, this is an accident. So we had to put people together from the US, from all the places. But as a practice, we need an independent commission or board.
Who will be objective.
And Parliament should push for this.
Particularly because when something happens and you talk to somebody who is within the system, there's always a conflict between protecting the institution's reputation and stating what is objective truth. And this is not because I impugn the integrity of anybody there, but the concept of independent, whether it's an independent ombudsman, even independent prosecutors, is because of the potential of being conflicted. All right? Because if you talk to a pilot, he will say, well, it's not everything we can say. Do you understand? So this idea of an independent, what's the expression used? Independent what?
Aviation safety committee or commission or board,
I
whatever.
think it's very, very important. Let me continue. So they dealt with the machine, which is where we just read. Human factors. Now, I think they spent a lot on human factors because there was some speculation around whether the guy was in the right frame of mind. So to be fair, they did a really good job there.
Rightly so.
So they said to rule out any potential human causes, we examine the qualification, experience and competence of the air crew. Postgraduate certificate in safety and accident investigation from Cranfield, UK, 2024. Cranfield is probably the best. The captain was a qualified FAA commercial and instrument rated pilot from Bristol Academy, Florida, USA, another top-notch institution. The captain, still within the Ghana Air Force, he was recategorized in March 2025 as a Category C pilot, qualified captain on Z9EH helicopter with a green instrument rating, which means that the pilot was conk. There was no problem with the man, which is why we go back to the machine. But let me finish. The co-pilot was a qualified FAA commercial and instrument rated pilot from the same Bristol, Florida, April 2023. In December 2024, he was recognized within the Ghana Air Force as Category D pilot on helicopter type with a white instrument rating. So he's also conk based on normal English. To rule out any potential human causes, we examine the medical and physiological records of the crew. A review of the medical and personal records revealed no known medical or psychological condition in the captain, co-pilot or technician at the time of flight. All three were described by witnesses as calm, prepared and professional during the pre-flight activities. Fatigue or medication was not considered to have materially affected their performance on the day of the flight. Then they go to sequence of events. So basically they are ruling out human error or they are ruling out human related limitations.
Yeah.
The guy was qualified to fly. He was in the right frame of mind to fly. So if something went wrong, it was the weather and the machine that the guy couldn't control, not because he wasn't qualified. That's what they are saying in normal English. Let's some sequence of events. The flight departed Accra, VFR, in marginal weather. The flight to Bofuedru was uneventful, approximately 90 nm out of 100 nm. Is that nautical miles? So 90 out of 100. So almost there. At 9:56, don't forget they left at 9 something.
They delayed the flight.
Yes. At 9:56, the crew entered IMC, into bracket clouds, and transitioned into IFR. You have to find out what those things means. Seconds before impact, the crew stated they could see high ground below. Then it goes, suddenly after, the helicopter lost height without change of power or pitch altitude and impacted a ridge line at 1,370 feet above sea level, about 6.5 miles from destination at 9:58. Let me read this again. The flight had done 90 out of 100 nm at 9:56. This is 2 minutes before impact. 9:56. Now 2 minutes before impact is 120 seconds. So that's still a bit of time. Which brings us to the question what Sky read about. That system that can, in seconds, power the aircraft to go up if it notices that is, because they're saying 9:56, the crew entered IMC and transitioned into IFR. That's 9:56. Seconds before impact, the crew stated they could see high ground below, possibly because they only saw the mountain few seconds before they crashed into it. So here's the main issue. Suddenly after they saw this thing, the helicopter lost height without change of power or pitch, attitude, and impacted a ridge line at 1,370 feet. So what they are saying is that this downdraft pulled the aircraft down. The conditions meant they didn't see the elevation until impact, which goes back to the point around if the aircraft had terrain awareness warning system, advanced navigation and with terrain mapping, and then what you call automatic flight control system. Read that automatic flight control thing again for me. I mean, it's hindsight. It's easy for us to say. Okay, so we are not saying that maybe somebody removed it. It wasn't there. It wasn't equipped with those things. But if it was, it is possible they may have been alive. Yeah. Because according to what you read of this, read it again.
So it says modern helicopters are fitted with helicopter terrain awareness and warning systems or enhanced ground proximity warning systems. Now these continuously compare the aircraft's position, altitude and speed with a digital terrain database. Now if the helicopter is descending towards rising ground, which is the ridge you're talking about, the system issues a loud, unmistakable alert.
Correct.
Terrain, pull up.
Correct.
Giving the crew vital seconds to climb or turn away. So you can roll away or yaw away or bank, whatever you want to do in the circumstances. Now, such systems have virtually eliminated controlled flight into terrain. So you, in this case, you are the person flying. You cannot now fly directly.
So once it notices that you are getting close to this.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. And then they prevent accidents like that. Now, equally vital is advanced GPS-based navigation with terrain mapping, which shows a live three-dimensional picture of the ground ahead. So they would have seen the ridge on their dashboard or whatever it is. It transforms a blind flight in fog into a guided one. So if you would have been relying on your eyes or visual rules to be able to see what's ahead of you, you are guided by reason of the availability of this equipment to be able to see what exactly the topography is in a particular area. Now, it goes on to say that in this case, the crew would have actually seen on their display that they were flying into a rising terrain near Bofuedru.
Let me now read their findings in conclusion. The helicopter was airworthy but lacked additional safety enhancements for flying safer in the weather phenomena over that terrain. Environment: adverse weather, limited visibility, rising terrain, and no ground-based navigation to aid en route. Emergency response was timely. Cause of accident: the investigation determined that the accident was caused by sudden loss of altitude and lift due to downdraft. This loss of altitude without change in power or pitch altitude is consistent with downdraft associated with changing environmental conditions over high terrain. Now they have something they call organizational and systemic factors. Limited national navigation capability for en route and remote area weather services. enhanced training, no simulator training. Flight monitoring, no flight data monitoring. Flight following, no secondary surveillance radar. Automatic dependent surveillance broadcast, real-time tracking. All of that they don't have. So they are basically saying, as a system, we don't have our national navigational capability when a flight is moving and when it is in remote areas is non-existent. We don't have enhanced training for simulators. We don't have flight data monitoring system. We don't have secondary surveillance radar. We don't have automatic blah 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 blah. Safety recommendations. Modernize the fleet of the Ghana Air Force. 1. Acquire modern aircraft with TAWS, the thing you just read, and EGPWS, the other one you read, and modern navigation system. Number 2, modernize the fleet of Ghana Air Force with CVR, FDR with audiovisual capable types. Right? The flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder. Which is what Francisca was saying, that if you're saying modernize the fleet of our Air Force with cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder with audiovisual capable types, does that suggest that the ones they had was not audiovisual? I don't know what they mean.
Even beyond this particular.
So the way it is written suggests that that's the recommendation, right? Invest in flight simulators for recurrent training. When we did the TV show, my flight simulator guy came at every point in the flight. Weather updates were being given, and the distance from the ground was being given, and the highest elevation was given. Because that aircraft type he was manipulating on the plane was a bit more modern than the one they were using. Because he even said that the one that he was flying had those systems which they just described here. All right.
Let me just have an input here. You see, an aircraft that was purchased
2015
manufactured in 2012 is actually considered modern.
Fair enough.
You understand? We made the choice of buying an aircraft that did not have critical safety equipment. You understand? So that's the aircraft on one part. And then
because it was bought 3 years after it was manufactured, so it was a modern aircraft at the time. It
relatively,
was bought.
Yes,
and it was used for 10 years.
Yes, I mean aircraft that's 10 years is still good.
No, but they said that they had done. Don't forget, I read something that they said they had done an extension of something.
Yeah,
so
that's just for 90 days.
See, the helicopter entered service in 2015, reached 10 years service threshold May 18. Yes. I don't know what that means. 2025, and then received a 90-day extension.
Yes.
To 18th August.
It doesn't mean
what?
No, it doesn't mean it's an old aircraft.
No, but the extension
it's a routine. No, it's a routine check that they do for aircraft, which is dated. So after 10 years, we do a major check to replace parts, to do all the things that, or to upgrade software and firmware.
So if they say a 90-day extension, is it extension of the service threshold?
Yes. To tell you that, okay, you can still go ahead for the next 90 days.
Before you come for service.
Before we will, beyond the 90 days, we cannot.
So that was with the manufacturer's approval?
Exactly.
Fair enough.
You understand? But what I'm saying is that when you have an aircraft that don't have, or that doesn't have critical safety enhancement equipment, like you mentioned, it's a trap. Especially when you are transporting VIP passengers. No country in the world will use that kind of aircraft to transport VIP passengers. That's the point I'm saying.
Being aware that it doesn't have these things.
So that is on the part of the aircraft. Now the last thing you read now comes to the support systems for aviation.
So you have to differentiate the two. The aircraft itself lack these things,
exactly,
and then the systems around our flights also
which is
don't
what
have.
They have talked about.
So let me read them. Flight simulators for recurrent training, contract certified aviation weather provider, en route navigational aid, flight data monitoring, en route tracking systems, ground support equipment, in addition to cockpit voice recorder, flight data recorder with audiovisual capability, and then acquiring aircraft with TAWS and the other things.
So the problem with the aircraft that crashed is a problem with the aircraft. But the problem with the support system that they are talking about makes it more curious. No Air Force person worth his sort would say that they didn't know that this was the condition.
of the aircraft.
No,
Oh,
the
oh,
situation,
system.
the support
The lack
system.
of all these
Yes.
things.
They've always known. They have always known. So the chickens have just
So you're
come
putting
home
two
to
things
roast.
together. The aircraft itself didn't have the safety
Avionics,
enhancement.
yes.
Yeah.
And then the system around flight monitoring and all these things too also don't exist. So it's almost like two troubles, one God.
But the extension is also an issue there.
So you have even three things. So you have a service that you're supposed to do. You extend it for 18 days, 12 days before the extension expired. You are still flying VIPs in it. Then the aircraft itself doesn't have what they themselves call key safety enhancements. Then Ghana's what do you call it? Ghana's navigational capabilities for en route and remote area weather services also need to be enhanced because they're also not up to scratch. So even you may have a modern aircraft with key safety features, but if you don't put in these systems as well, it may even limit your ability to help the aircraft. So with such a major national blow, I think you were expecting stronger recommendation
And urgency.
So the
Yes.
point around stop using any aircraft that doesn't have this. As a matter of urgency, install these systems in our aviation, whatever. Because you see, the conclusion was that the accident was an unfortunate and sudden weather-related accident.
That's correct.
Implementing the safety recommendations will prevent recurrence of accident, which means they admit that if these things were there, the guys the team may have not have crashed.
That's unfortunate enough. But we are saying that going forward, let's put a stop to all flights
For aircraft without these things.
Exactly. That's the first thing.
But do you know we have these aircraft? Okay, are you sure there are aircraft like that in the system?
I can't say as a matter of fact, but I will not be surprised if they have.
The other question is that was this the helicopter that was flown our president? We have to ask that question because you usually fly the president in the best aircraft, the best helicopter.
The helicopters.
Yes.
Oh, they use it all the time.
So the president uses this helicopter.
Well, I know high government officials use it all the time.
Is there another helicopter higher than this one in our fleet?
I don't know.
Well, I really don't even want to.
No, I want you to investigate that thing.
You see, I understand why you are asking.
Yeah.
You know,
If this is the best
these are
aircraft that
questions
can carry us, then doesn't have this.
Maybe
Master.
the Defense and Interior Committee would have to do its own investigations into what exactly happened. You see, but Bernard, why, I don't want to compare lives, right? Life losses.
Yeah, a life, I get
of
you.
course.
Yes.
The president or whatever it is bad enough. But you see, critical questions arise as to why the aircraft virtually expired, right?
Almost.
No, it almost expired or whatever it expired.
No, it's not expired. It's not
No,
expired.
I mean, I'm using, I want to be...
You are talking about a 90-day extension.
Yeah.
No, it is done. That is done.
Samens, it is done.
Yeah.
But you see, it is done within certain constraints. There's a reason why the manufacturer says that this thing, you use it for a certain...
10 years.
10 years, right?
And then when they say service threshold, what does it mean?
So then you have, with the written consent of the manufacturer, said that, okay, for the next 30 days, we can do a few adjustments here and use it for time.
No, I want to understand something. If you say the aircraft was to have had...
Was due.
Does that mean they should have sent it back for
For
service?
major
Some
service.
of them, you have to send it back physically. Some of them, you have a maintenance and repair crew that visit your location physically. Now, the threshold only gives you an idea of a time boundary beyond which they cannot assure you of the safety of the equipment.
So wait,
Bernard, let me read something.
let's take it.
Let me read this
let's
to
take it
you.
easy. Let's take it easy.
After what Samens has said,
let's take it easy. You see, the thing is that all of us here are not experts in the field. And I'm also saying that the press conference was for the public. So whilst you don't need to be an expert to understand the basic thing being communicated, you may not be able to make certain other deductions on the face value. Okay, so I just want us to be cautious and minded. And also know that there's a lot of emotions involved because people have lost their lives. I think what is critical is that just using the report, we can see clearly the conclusion that
there are gaps.
if we provide these safety things, because, and this is not my words, I'm going to read the conclusion of the report, because I think that conclusion then tells you that the people who did the report themselves are saying that if these safety things are put in place, they use the word it will prevent. Right. So these are not my words. So
That is,
let
we
me
are
ju-
less
yes,
likely.
yes. So let me
to
just
have
read.
this
Let me
kind
just
of
read.
accident
Let me read what they are
in
saying.
the manner that it happened.
So it says, implementing the safety recommendations will prevent. These are not my words. All right. So I feel like, in a sense, they've said it.
Yes.
They've said it. They've said, even though they didn't say it the way you wanted them to say, they've said it. They are saying, if you implement these safety recommendations, it will prevent recurrence of accidents.
Bernard,
It will prevent.
I don't have any problem with the report, their conclusions and recommendations. I'm only saying that it opens the whole thing up to further questions. That's all I'm saying. Okay. So we should apply a certain level of urgency in fixing the problems. You understand? Now, Sky mentioned Parliament. Now, Parliament should be very, very involved in this. It may even end up that we have to pass laws to protect this aviation transportation thing. You understand? Because it's such a helpless situation that, the only thing we can do on hindsight is to close all the gaps that have popped up as a result of this accident.
There's something.
But another thing that we need to commend the team is the speed with which they have conducted this exercise. It doesn't happen as quickly as they have done it in other countries, I must say.
Apparently, we have an aircraft accident and incident investigator. There's a law, actually, so I didn't know this. Act 1028, Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation and Prevention Bureau. It's actually there. It's actually there. So when you said that there was no, we should recommend for.
No, I said an independent.
But
that's not independent. This is yes.
No,
this is not independent.
Really, when you read it, it doesn't. I don't know what the Constitution is, but it does state that. So this act is to establish the Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation and Prevention Bureau to investigate, prevent, regulate, and oversee the management of aircraft accidents and incidents that occur in Ghana, and to provide for related matters. Date of assent, 6th October 2020, passed by Parliament and assented to by the President. And this act applies to the aircraft accidents or incidents of that occur. Then they give the details. I wanted to look at the composition. All right. The composition will determine whether it's independent or not. The governing body of the bureau is a board consisting of a chairperson with experience in aviation matters nominated by the President, one legal practitioner of not less than 10 years standing at the bar nominated by GBA, one chartered accountant not less than 10 years standing nominated by the ICAG, one engineer of not less than 10 years standing nominated by the Ghana Institute of Engineers, one representative of the ministry responsible for aviation not below the rank of a director nominated by the minister, the commissioner, and one other person nominated by the President. And then it gives the conditions under which they are nominated. What are their duties? They investigate aircraft accidents and incidents, ensure due compliance with Annex 13 of the Chicago Convention and protocols, technical instructions, guidance, and procedures for international civil aviation, establish procedures for conduct of investigations in accordance with Annex 13 of the Chicago Convention, promote and improve safety in aviation through the independent investigation. So this is the word, the independent investigation of aircraft accidents and incidents, and the prevention of aircraft accidents and incidents. Determine the cause and contributory factors to aircraft accidents and incidents. Prepare and submit reports to the appropriate authority to enhance the progress of investigations into aircraft accidents and incidents, and advise the minister on matters related to all of this. So maybe this may have to be tidied up, but it does exist in the form that I just read it. And so of course, because this was a military aircraft, they involved the military in it. So maybe they could have then just said, maybe they could have had non-military, but I don't know.
You see,
but
Bernard,
this is where we are.
You see, the point I want to make is that
Yeah.
the nature of the report, while we don't doubt the competence of the people who investigated the accident or the crash, to put it in that sense, I think there are critical issues that emerge. And I'm sure people who are interested in probing these spaces would have to raise these issues. Because, first of all, I was talking about the extension. Under what conditions did they allow that? the flight was delayed for about an hour, right? What recommendation went into allowing the flight to proceed after an hour, right? And in the world we live in today, truly and really, right? Is it proper, even in our limited circumstances, to have allowed a flight whose lifeline has been extended by 30 days after expiry? I'm using the word because
Why do you keep using
that's
the
No,
word?
90 days.
90 days, because that is what our people would understand,
Yeah.
right? It's
Well,
10
that's a fact.
exactly. It's 10 years, right? So ideally, you either withdraw it from service or take it back for thorough overhauling. You understand? To make it fit and proper for purpose again. But with the written consent of the folks in China, we decided to expand its lifeline by 30 days
Do
or
you
so.
think the committee should have looked into the reason we asked for that extension
All of those
and
questions would have to be
possibly
asked.
examined it to say that, okay, this aircraft had reached its service end of whatever, and we asked for a 30-day extension or 90-day extension? Maybe they would have then called that document and examined whether there was anything that needed to be done for the aircraft to be airworthy or whatever. But I think they said it had been cleared to fly.
Yes, you see,
something
so
like
that is the
and it
issue.
had flown the second, third, and fourth.
Bernard,
or so.
reading the entire thing, what I see as a lawyer is there appears to be an attempt to carve out culpability which they seek not to directly impose on the state. That's what I see. Because, yes, it is basic that you drive a car that is basically functional. But a car that is functional doesn't mean that the car is fit for purpose in a particular situation. You were told that there are other things, if added to the flight, would have prevented that disaster. We did not have them. You understand? So what it means is that if we had them, perhaps this would not have happened. So the question,
Based on their own conclusion.
exactly.
Based on their own
So
conclusion.
the question is,
Yeah.
should we have acquired these things? Was it proper that in all the circumstances of the situation we're talking about, the day of the flight, the situation with the weather and all the matter, where the people were going, we ought to have used this flight with all these negatives that we had seen, which we knew or ought to have known.
You know something that
We ought to have gone in that particular
interesting
flight.
we are missing. You know, they gave the flight history for August 2nd, August and August 4th. What would have been interesting was to give us the weather for those days and the terrain as well.
Yeah, the terrains are different.
No, I'm not saying it helps to enrich the discussion to say on August 2 it flew for 1.5 hours to this place. What kind of weather did it fly in? All right.
And the nature of the
Just to
flight.
give a sense, because and also whether that day it flew, it also had to wait for adverse weather to clear. Maybe they did that work, but they didn't think it was necessary for us. But I feel like, as some of you have said, when you read the full report and the conclusion of the report, you can't help but feel that some critical statements have been jumped. Because the conclusion is a strong conclusion.
Yeah.
Now, to arrive at such a strong conclusion,
You need further
the
evidence.
pathway to that conclusion
Must be
but,
rigorous.
but you can also tell from what you're saying that maybe they feel like people are already angry and sad, you don't necessarily want to agitate them further. But you see, if you want to create urgency around preventing this forever, because this is a catastrophic thing that has happened, and we should convince ourselves that we did our best for them. I don't think we did.
Yeah.
And I don't think our not being aviation experts
Limits our
means we
capacity
can't
to say
conclude
that.
that. That if we, because if you know that it doesn't have key safety enhancements,
Additional safety.
right?
Yeah.
Second point, should we extend this beyond VIP travel, right? And say the issues they spoke about outside the aircraft affects everybody who flies in Ghana. Do you understand? So let's not just say let's get modern aircraft so that when people of high importance to us are flying, they are safe. If you're saying that there were systemic and organizational issues. Those issues affect everybody who flies anything.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So the recommendation can go and say, beyond getting modern aircraft, these are the systemic recommendations we are making, so that any pilot flying any plane anywhere in our jurisdiction has a better chance. I feel like that recommendation should also be there, because if those things had been there, again, it may have made it easier for somebody to help them or something. So I feel like we are in a hurry as a society to get it over and done with and move on.
Yeah.
But
and,
trying
and,
to
and not blame anybody in
yes,
particular.
That is exactly my
but
point.
see, that's the thing, Siska, you can solve a problem because if something is systemic, it affects everybody and it is an interplay of many factors.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you should leave it unattended to. So if the recommendation is that we, and I think I need to read it to give it a bit more weight.
Basically, it's an accident. So
No. They are saying that there were organizational and systemic inadequacies
Yes.
Yeah.
in our aviation tracking. And our point is that, so at what point do they get fixed? Or at what point do they get attention? Is it just because we shouldn't just make it a question about VIP travel and important state officials. Maybe there should be an immediate upgrade of all these weather. So, for example, weather systems, weather monitoring systems. In Ghana. If I let me read my message for
This
you, it will help you.
the report of the accident investigation. I am saying that the military hierarchy, the Air Force people themselves, they know that this problem has existed for years. And some of them have complained about it over years and nothing has been done.
In terms of the system.
The system, I'm talking about the system. So the recommendation, solid recommendation, we should fix the system. We should also review our processes for purchasing or acquiring aircrafts in the future. Now, the other point that I want to make is that we should stop using military aircraft to transport civilians as a regular practice. Unless emergency. Military aircrafts is there. Oh, this person is going here, take him here. This person is going here, take him here. We should stop that thing and let it be for the military. Unless emergency. You understand? So first and foremost, let's fix the system.
Yeah.
Secondly, let's review our processes for acquiring aircrafts.
Yeah.
We are a poor country. So if somebody is giving us aircraft for free, we should take it, but we should consider the essence of the gift.
Yeah. I want to add something.
Oh no, we are a poor country.
I want to
Maybe
add.
a poorly managed.
No, we are poor.
I want to add something.
This is not by faith.
around the issue of system and its organization. I think we need to pay attention to the Ghana Meteorological Agency too. So, for example, how many weather stations do they have? How well equipped are they to provide the kind of real-time information on weather that may have been useful for people within a flight space? Okay. So
And civil aviation,
yes.
actually.
So I
civil
think
aviation.
we need a functional weather radar system and other types of equipment to enhance the agency. So sometimes when something like this happens, we should take it as an opportunity to help upgrade all the institutions within the chain. And I feel like if you read a report, the weather monitoring systems we have may also not be up to scratch. In fact, they stated that.
Yes.
Right. So you are saying the report is focused on the craft, and therefore they are saying buy new aircraft. But I feel like because it's become such a major national tragedy, they can go beyond and make specific recommendations and say, for example, Ghana Meteo Agency increase the density and distribution of their weather stations by this factor. Provide them this type of equipment. Link it to civil aviation. Do you understand?
But no,
to
it's-
solve
it's-
those.
it's part of the system issues that
Yes.
they are raising. No?
No, but I'm saying that I don't see it as a specific recommendation.
Well,
I don't see it as a
that's
specific-
why
the
I said that
recommendations that they shared with the public were limited to
aviation.
yes. No, there are 7. Modern. Okay. To be fair, they have safety recommendations. I don't know if they have something they call organizational and systemic recommendations. I don't see that in the summary I have here. Maybe they do.
Maybe well beyond their terms of reference, I don't know. But the point has to be made, Bernard, and I insist this. That you see, let us not just be forward looking, right? We must get to the roots of how these decisions got made and if there is evidence of negligence, institutionally or by people who knew or ought to have known better, and who did not act in a way a reasonably competent, officer or instructor or whoever the person must have been, there we must place culpability, and people must answer for it. Because in this country, generally,
but the way the report is written, to be very difficult for you to get that kind of information.
No, you see, that is why. I don't want to give.
Let me give an example.
I think that's the point he's making.
So if for example, and this is hypothetical, if somebody had made a request as a matter of urgency for a new helicopter to be bought, maybe 3 months down the line, and then maybe it hadn't been acted on because there's no money. Even if you bring that out, how do you allocate culpability in this case?
Let me give you an example.
Just because you're saying, I'm just an example. Let's assume somebody says we should have bought a new helicopter and we didn't have money to buy it.
Better, let me give you an example.
Is that the fault of the person who said we don't have money to buy it?
Let me give you an
Or
example.
the fact that we didn't have money to buy it?
Okay, let me give you an example. The fact that experts sat together and put this report doesn't make it sacrosanct.
Of course not.
In fact, an affected person can commission an independent report that would establish, in the view of those internationally recognized or locally celebrated experts, what would have accounted for what went down.
Correct.
Right? It is perfectly possible, without even attacking the expertise of the people who invest. These are distinguished people. We heard about their credentials and all of that. It is perfectly possible that they would be able to substantively, materially expose gaps in the findings made by these experts. Now, a court properly sitting and looking at the facts and properly directed and looking at the law, the standards elsewhere, what is the standard of care required of a nation towards the citizens in similar situations, what is expected of the Ghana Armed Forces or modern military establishments. What would they have done in similar circumstances? It is possible that when they look at the facts, and I'm not saying that anybody has done anything wrong, we are just exposing potential gaps in what we have heard. The court will come to the conclusion that maybe one way or the other that someone did something wrong and therefore ABCD should happen. It is not possible for 8 people to just die like that, and we hear that, oh, yes, it reaches lifeline, and then we extended this more. It needed to have had ABCD. We didn't give it to them because it was clear to fly. I mean, you can clear.
There should be more. You are saying there's more questions that some of those conclusions require, which can give more insight into what could have happened.
Bernard, when I heard Captain Fojo read that line that the aircraft had clearance to fly, I giggled. No, to fly on the day. I mean, I just laughed. I said, but Captain Fojo has been an Air Force pilot and has been a commercial pilot. Has been the deputy MD of Ghana Airways for years. So his credentials, no question about it. Then I asked myself, which military Air Force officer will fly an aircraft which has not been cleared to fly?
So you are saying that it goes without saying?
It goes without saying.
But he needs to say it. Because if he doesn't say it, it's not that he's talking to the public. He needs to say it.
That there's a probability that I'm just saying that there's a probability that the pilot of these known credentials will fly an aircraft that was not cleared to fly in Ghana.
No, he's just stating the obvious fact.
Yeah, but you see, that also raises another
He's just stating. I get your point too. That it's obvious. You are saying, of
so
course.
Let me be the literal interpretation of that is that this machine, helicopter, was asked to fly, knowing that it lacked adequate safety equipment.
No, they use the word enhancement.
No,
see,
the enhancement is an industry reference.
See, that's what I'm saying. They use the word key, which suggests that it is important, but then they use the word to suggest as if it's like an extra.
No, I'm saying that it's an industry reference. That's enhancement, but I won't use the word key. I'll use critical.
Okay, and they use critical.
No, they use key. They use the word key.
I'll use critical.
No, they use the word key.
Both actually. At some
and then it is also relative to the particular mission
Yeah.
Yes.
that you are flying.
They use the word.
Yes.
They use the word key.
Yes.
Because if you are flying towards a ridge,
Yeah, good.
these things become truly critical, particularly when we had been told that there was an issue with the weather as of the time they wanted to fly that required that they should defer the flight for at least an hour.
Yeah. So
Right?
clearly somebody knew that.
So when we are even talking about using the language clearance, was that clearance done?
Yeah.
Or it was done under
The routine. Oh, and actually, let's go.
yes. You see,
Let's
So it
go.
means the
No,
clearance
but
should be
but let's not
Even that,
but let's not
because
forget that. You
sometimes,
see,
authority
guys,
overrides.
I always say that hindsight is always clear.
Oh yeah, of course.
So that's why they also told you that even 3 days, 2 days, 1 week to the fateful day, the aircraft had flown. So they are giving you its immediate history.
Yeah.
They're also telling you that because the weather was adverse, they delayed the flight because it means somebody sort of weighed the situation and said it may not be the best time to fly now. Hold on.
Yeah.
So it's trying to say that there were a lot of
Considerations. Yeah.
before they flew.
Yeah.
One of those
But
considerations could have been that the ministers have to be in Obuasi.
No, Sky, wait. No, you see, we all don't have those facts. What I'm saying is that, you see, the way they narrate all this tells you that people did apply some due care.
Yes.
Okay?
Fair.
And people didn't just, and the aircraft had done the second, third, and fourth. So there were no red flags
Yes.
from those 3 days.
Yes.
Do you get it? But they all admit that with those avionic enhancements, this could have been prevented. But it's something like we know. So it's almost to say, like, for example, I'm driving a car. The car I have, the engine works well, but it doesn't have a camera that if I'm reversing, I can see what is behind me. So I reverse into a gutter and I step on a goat and the goat dies. They are saying that if Bernard had a reverse camera on his car, he may not have reversed and killed the goat. It's not a good example. Now, he's driven that car for many weeks and he hasn't killed any goat. So the day that he wanted to reverse and they said, "Try me, if a plank or back," no, it didn't raise any red flag that, oh, who reverse, you'll become a ponchibia. But we all know that if Bernard's car has a reverse camera, he may have been more careful in the way he reverses. I think to be that way. So what I'm saying is that they know that when you have these things on the plane, obviously it will make it easier for them to navigate. But that doesn't mean that sitting on that plane every day is necessarily terrible, because the history of the flying for the few days, I'm trying to understand what their logic. That so we all know that if you put that thing there, clearly he would have seen.
Because of the
So now make sure that because of this accident you put it there. But it's not to suggest that the decision to fly was completely irresponsible. Do you understand what I'm saying? In the way they present it, it's not an irresponsible. It is a decision which, using all the facts they've put together. Please hear me out in 2 seconds. So what I'm saying is that in trying to understand what they are saying, they are basically saying, now we know that these avionic enhancements, we can't gloss over them anymore, because this accident is terrible and nobody could have predicted a downdraft of that kind. But not to say that flying an aircraft with an experienced pilot, which had flown 2 days, 3 days, 1 week to the incident, was a complete act of dereliction. Do you understand? So I'm putting some balance there that we now know. But in that situation before flying it, with all the things that we have said, only a very clairvoyant person could have said, no, don't put them on the plane. That's the way I interpret what they are saying. And I think that interpretation also does make some sense. All right? So I think both truth can coexist. If somebody believes they can get more information around what has happened to give further insight to prevent it, 100%. Luckily for all of us, the recommendation is very strong. The last recommendation is very, very strong. You are saying, look, you need to get this to prevent. So they are saying that we now know that based on these 8 guys dying, we are not going to allow any aircraft which doesn't have that. And I think that is strong. I think we should leave it there. All right, let's not
I don't
over
think we
legislate
should
the
leave
matter.
it there.
Let's just leave it there so because you see, don't forget that we can all read one thing and interpret it differently. But at least we all see the recommendation is clear. So let's put a timeline to the recommendation that you say you are going to acquire these things. Make sure you acquire them within a specific time.
Yes,
You say
very
that
important.
there are systemic and organizational challenges with our aviation. Put in place a timetable to fix it. Okay. Now, if somebody believes that there's more to look for what happened, they are free to go and investigate, which he is saying. I am saying that when all things considered, we should track the recommendations and give timelines to it, and insist that the recommendations are fully adhered to, so that we don't get a recurrence of such a tragedy again.
So that's
Simple.
what I mean, that we need details of what happens thereafter. The recommendations have been spelt out.
Yes.
But we need to know which institutions, which stake agencies, etc., are going to be working on it. What is Ghana Meteor going to do specifically? In terms of legal,
Yeah.
what's going to
Yes,
be done
yes.
specifically? So we need
We can do that.
We need all that
The
thereafter
press conference
information.
could have generated that, but I also believe that we can have access to Minister for Communication and ask those specific questions for those timelines and those details
I
to
don't
be
even
given.
think we have to ask those questions.
Well-
I think we have to be provided
Well,
with the
even we have to, we
details
can
of
ask for it. Let me
what's
give it.
going
Let,
to
let's
happen
let me.
thereafter.
I need to take a break.
Me, I'm only saying that they should stop the military aircrafts from behaving like trotro.
Okay.
And
Fair
then,
enough.
secondly, all the system-related issues that have popped up in this report, not one of them is new to the system.
So they should deal with
You
it.
understand? Not one of them
They should deal with it.
is new. I'm telling you, not one. Every one of them captured there is known to the people already. And we sat down for this accident to occur. You talked about the aircrafts, the schedule before the accident. You know, we as a people, we take things for granted. It's just a culture of what you people call in economics satisficing. Just a culture of let's use the least available to us, and nyamiadom, we have done it.
Manage it.
In the previous flight, they did not encounter the kind of
Exactly
adverse
my
weather
point.
that they had.
Yeah.
So that weather has come to prove to us that
The system we have put in place is not good enough.
exactly.
So let's
That's
fix
all
it.
we say.
Ngongu de ye ngong abimango na fiata. Ekpo ine la mosi de. Eba down for na.
Oh, you are about down. Just about down. About down.